Hey friends, before we jump into today's conversation, I've been thinking about those small, meaningful things that bring us together. For me, that's often sharing a bottle from my family's premium soda company, Soda Beers. Whether it's crisp ginger beer, smooth butterscotch beer, classic root beer, original apple beer, or apple beer 5, our low-calorie twist, each flavor is a small little reminder of home and of the simple joys. Okay, now let's dive in. Welcome to Verses and Visions Creative Conversations, where creativity and purpose meet to inspire and uplift. I'm Cassidy Beck, your host, here to explore the stories of artists, dreamers, and changemakers who are walking in faith and using their unique gifts to make a difference. Each episode is a reminder that your vision, paired with God's purpose, can transform the world around you. Let's get started and spark some inspiration together. I'm delighted and really interested to be learning more about Fay Klingler today. Welcome, Fay.
Thank you. I'm so glad you invited me, Cassidy. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Fay. Fay is an award-winning best-selling author and an illustrator. She has written many nonfiction books, helping the readers realize their self-worth and recognizing Heavenly Father's hand in their lives. Currently, her focus is writing children's books. She hopes her stories will bring joy and strength to children and adults and helping them believe in ourselves. That's very impactful work that you're doing.
It is, and it's important to me for several different reasons. I have a large family, a lot of grandchildren, and so I'm trying to make sure that my work is going to impact my grandchildren, whether they actually read my books or not. They know writing and fulfilling my creative drive. And I hope that really impacts them, that they recognize it's okay for them to do the same thing.
I love that idea. So, when you were a young lady, did you have a woman that you look up to that was doing the same thing that you're doing, that had that sense of creativity and drive, and that was turning her ambition into work?
Frances Hook's artistic work was the work I always bought. I read those books to my children. I had stacks of those books for my children because I loved that artwork. For me, just to look at that artwork was fulfilling somehow, to look and try to figure out how those lines were drawn, what that artist did. I did a lot of study with artwork. I got an associate's degree in artwork. I followed different artists, but then you have to develop your own style and what is comfortable for you.
So that's wonderful because you have two skill sets, your illustrator skill set and then your author skill set. How did you hone your author skill set?
That actually came naturally to me. When I was a young teenager in junior high school, I don't know why they thought I was really good in English class. I couldn't tell you where the pronoun was. I couldn't name them, but I loved writing. And so they put me in a creative writing class instead of the English class. And I had the best creative writing teacher. She was old like me, white hair. Oh my goodness, she was wonderful. I remember one day she came into class. I always got there a little early. I would sit in my seat. Now, this woman routinely was impeccably dressed, makeup perfect. She came in no makeup, hair not really fixed, and sat down at her desk with a makeup case in front of her. She waited until all the kids came in. Then she announced, "Your assignment is to watch me put on my makeup and write about it." It was so fun. And she just did the funnest things for us to make us use our imagination, figure out words to use, how to put the sentences together. For me, it just was incredibly fun. Later in life, when I was a single mom and ended up working as a technical writer, I worked for a worldwide communications company at the time. I did not have a degree in English, but a project leader, and I had people under me. And I knew how to put those sentences together, what needed to be done, and how to organize. I was a great organizer. That was my greatest gift. I could put all the work together from all the people. We wrote manuals for railroads. We wrote manuals for the oil refineries. We wrote all kinds of technical work manuals. But that was not something I had to go to school for. Heavenly Father blessed me when things would come up. I somehow just knew how to put it together.
That's incredible. As a creative, it feels like the technical writing almost feels at odds with creativity because
It
you are
was.
writing a manual. How did that fuel your creativity?
It did not, but it paid the bills. I remember getting so starved for creativity that I would go to my manager and say, could I just make this line thicker? Or could I create a side to the page? Could I do anything to make it different? And the manager said, no, every order has to go out in the same format. You have to stick with the format. And boy, did that cut off my creativity. It was strictly a job that made it possible for me to pay the bills. The same kind of thing actually happened to me back when I was a very young mother. I had 5 kids at the time, and 3 of them were at school. So I would have a little bit of time, you would think, but no, I had a baby and a preschooler. So put the baby down for a nap, but the preschooler's still there and wanting your attention. You really don't have any time for yourself. When you've got a lot of young children, for me, I lost my identity of Fay. I was mom. That was my identity. And I was so hungry to have my identity of Fay. Where was she? I didn't know. Finally, I decided the only way I was going to be able to regenerate my feeling of identity was to have some kind of creativity that I loved, which was my art. And so I decided if I could just give myself just 15 minutes a day to give myself that feeling again, then I think I'd be okay. So what I did was, with artwork, you can't use oils or watercolors because oils are going to dry up and the colors of the watercolors are going to go dry before you can actually use them. And so I ended up doing colored pencil and pastels. I would get my drafting table all set. I would have all of my tools there. And then I got a little desk and put it right next to my drafting table for my preschooler. And I would give her the very same tools. She had the pencils, the pastels, the papers, but I would put a timer there. The timer was set for 15 minutes. And I would tell her, you can't disturb mommy for this 15 minutes. You can't ask questions. You can't interrupt me. When the buzzer goes off, I'll play a game with you or we'll do something really fun. She was extremely observant and she would watch everything I did because it was right next to her desk. And she would mimic what I was doing, but she didn't interrupt me. So I was able to draw and fill the pencil, fill the line, choose the colors, do everything. That initial 15 minutes a day ended up with 72 hours of work to complete my self-portrait. And my self-portrait ended up being sold in Deseret bookstores for relief societies all over the place for their lessons for motherhood, because it showed with my baby. And it was wonderful. I figured out who Faye was again. And I was able to open that door, even though it was just 15 minutes a day. But that starvation ended. I was able to continue and keep it going for a while until I ended up a single mom and having to change gears a little bit.
What I feel like is so incredible, you're carving that space out for yourself so that you can remember who you are and your divine gifts. And also, you're welcoming your daughter into that space with you so that she can create alongside you. And so, you're creating space for her as well with the rules that you set up. You made space for both of you. And how incredible.
This daughter was very much like me, a creative person that grew up into a beautiful, wonderful individual who took animation in college, got a degree, and let me tell you, she's a great artist, and she uses her creativity without fear and makes all kinds of things. That period of time was
Yeah.
very instrumental for her.
For both of you. That's incredible. And that you're setting those seeds of this is really important. I recently had a conversation with a creator and she's doing wonderfully well. She's thinking about expanding. And she was like, I will expand when I have everything figured out. And I would like to have you speak to that. Do you feel like you had everything figured out before you embarked on this process?
I don't think I ever have everything figured out because it goes piece by piece. When I went back to my children's writing, I only did that 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, because I felt impressed that I should be going back to it. At the time, I didn't know why. And it was piece by piece. It was because I really needed it personally, that space of giving my imagination and myself in a creative way, designing the covers, figuring out those characters and what those characters can and can't do. It was piece by piece. There was nothing that came, this is how it's all going to come together and it's okay. Because every day I would get on my knees and I would say, Heavenly Father, why am I doing this? I have so many things on my plate that I ought to be doing. And you're telling me I should be going back to my writing. Why? I never got the why answer until probably a year later, where it was because that's going to make me feel purpose, going to make me feel whole in a time period when things don't always around you give you the feeling of wholeness. So it was through my career, from the time I started as a teenager, moving forward to where I am now. It's been a start and stop kind of thing, fulfilling my needs as I have needed it all the way along. But it has never been the whole picture and come to me like, oh, I'm not going to do it till I know why. I'm not going to do it till I get all the pieces in the puzzle, because it is a puzzle. And that's what life is. Life is a puzzle. Heavenly Father almost never gives all the answers. He'll give you a piece of what you need right now. And then if you move forward with that piece, you get another piece and you've got the other under your belt. So it's okay because you've got a new piece. And now you move forward with that piece. And it's really up to us whether we're going to take hold of that prompting, take hold of that opportunity, and move out of our comfort space.
I love that idea so much. I am a puzzle woman. I love puzzles, and I have done one before where you don't have the final image of what you're trying to create.
I've
You
done that
just,
time too.
and it's so hard in our life. We don't have the, okay, when after you put all this together, this is what it's going to look like. You just have one little piece, and you're like, okay, I think this could maybe go here, but also I'm going to be adaptable and changeable and move if needed. I love that idea.
That is exactly how it has been for me my whole lifetime. Taken that opportunity presented to me, unclear, it's not transparent, but thinking, okay, without fear, I need to move forward. I need to make this happen using whatever I can. Creativity is not just writing or art. I see it in my boys who are very technical, but try to work out of the box, figure out how to make something work. They use their creativity in a very technical way, but that's creativity too. Problem solving, even figuring out how I'm going to lay out my front room, for instance, where I'm going to move the furniture, how I'm going to set things up, how I'm going to lay out my garden when I plant my garden each year. That's all creativity. It is using our brain, our intuitive space to feed our soul.
You know how much I love sharing stories that inspire faith and hope. I'm excited to tell you about my new children's book, Sheep Chronicles Baptism, releasing September 1st. It's about Joshua, a curious boy with big questions about baptism, and the parable of a lost sheep named Shannon, shared by his wise grandpa. It's been such a joy to write this story, and I can't wait for you and your family to read it together. I totally agree with you. And I love that idea. My kids are 15, 13, and 8 right now. During summer, we have summer chores. One of their chores is that they need to be creative. As you can imagine, we've had a lot of discussions about what that is, and it has expanded a lot. My kids really enjoy sports, they enjoy soccer, they enjoy gymnastics. We have expanded that to be like, what plays are you forming? What routines are you making? How can you creatively clean your room? So, absolutely, I think that we can use our creativity in ways that aren't just art or music or writing. We can use creativity in our day to day.
That's very clever of you, Cassidy. That really is. We always had summer chores at our house when my kids were young, didn't enjoy it as much as others.
Do you feel like you've ever felt inadequate or unworthy of an assignment that God gave you? And if so, how do you move forward with faith and not fear?
There was a time when I was writing nonfiction, and I had some really good years of writing. I had a bestseller with Deseret Book. I was serving on Temple Square as a host and had various assignments in that position. I was one of the leaders, and then I had work that the missionary department had given me on top of it. I was pretty much on overload. We served there every Monday for 9 years. And we were getting ready to finish that. At the same time, my husband was the branch president of a branch here in Salt Lake. And I was also serving in that branch as a compassionate service person. I remember saying to my missionary companion on Temple Square that I had the prompting that I should write another book, and I didn't want to do it because I knew how much time it took. And when you're doing spiritual work, it is very heavy and time consuming, very overwhelming, because you are devoting your heart, your thoughts, your prayers, everything to asking Heavenly Father to inspire you to know what to say and what to do when it's spiritual work. And you do that when you give a talk, right? When you are giving a talk in sacrament meeting. But I told my companion, I really don't want to write this book. And this went on for a couple of weeks with my telling her this. And she finally said to me, Faye, if you're getting this feeling you should write this book and you already know what's supposed to be in it, don't you think you really ought to write it? I said, yeah, I guess I better, but I don't know when I'll find time to do it. So I remember going to Heavenly Father and I said, look, and I know this doesn't sound very conventional for a prayer, but I said, look, if you'll help me do this really fast, then okay, I'll dedicate my time. When I get released from downtown, I will dedicate every day to writing if you'll tell me what to write, and I'll do it for 3 months. Then I had my commitment, right? I got released, sat there at my computer, just prayed every day, constantly, wrote what I was told. But Cassidy, I have to tell you, it's like the words were just given to me. I've never had it so quick, so easy. It was beautiful. I had it all done in 3 months. Usually that will take a year or two. 3 months. It was all written. I immediately was called as a Relief Society president for that. So that's why I felt that push, I guess, because that call came right after. I turned in the manuscript to one of my publishers. They accepted it right away. And within that year, it was published.
Wow. That's remarkable. That is remarkable.
I didn't want to do it. I said no for a while. But then when you grab a hold of it and move forward and give your effort, we talk about doing this all the time in the temple. We're going to commit and we're going to give it. And that's all I did. It has everything to do with our Heavenly Father being willing to help us if we're willing to put in the effort. And that's what it's all about. If we're willing to recognize our own need, which I did when I was doing that self-portrait, or if we're willing to recognize when that prompting comes, I either need it for me or I need it for the Lord, and I need to follow through. That's how we make things happen.
I think that's incredible. It is definitely the Lord's guidance and his inspiration that helped you through this journey and continues to help. You were the one that developed your talents so that when that call came, you were like, I can answer this because I have the skills and abilities to do.
It's true. I had done that, but Heavenly Father had helped me with all of that. Even with my artwork, when I was winning awards, he was helping me with that, with the opportunities to give me the experience. It doesn't happen overnight. I ended up doing a lot of writing before I got to that point of writing that book. How many things had I written before then? Articles for magazines and different things. So it wasn't like it happens overnight. Maybe it does for some people, but it didn't for me. I had to learn from different experiences, both with my artwork and with my writing. It was piece by piece.
The book that you were just talking about, which one was that?
A Woman's Power. It was,
Oh, that's the one that came in 3 months. And how interesting, too, that was your focus and your day to day, and that you were then called into the Relief Society presidency.
yes.
That's
It,
extraordinary.
yeah. Isn't Heavenly Father's timing,
Mm,
his creativity, his choreography, isn't it amazing?
mm.
It's truly amazing to see.
I don't know if this is something that you want to talk about. You talked about becoming a single parent. Do you
Yeah.
want to tell me about that journey?
That was a very hard journey, which it is for anybody that becomes a single parent. My husband, at the time, I had been married 26 years and we had 6 children. He was the bishop at the time, and he made some choices that ultimately caused his excommunication from the church and a divorce. And we ended up, my children and I, making it on our own. And it was extremely difficult, but many miracles because I depended entirely upon Heavenly Father and him helping me to find work, to provide for my children. Without him, there's no way to do it as smoothly as it was for me with Heavenly Father's help and opening the doors when I needed those doors opened.
That's extraordinary because in that transition, you stepped into becoming everything to your kids, right? You were going to provide for them spiritually and for all of their physical needs as well. And you're the sole provider for all of those things. What heavy responsibility.
It is a terribly difficult when you first become a single mom, especially if it's been a problem with betrayal. Every one of them is a betrayal situation, usually with some kind of betrayal. Doesn't have to be another woman. It can be all kinds of different ways. You're dealing with your own trauma
Mm.
and trying to figure out how to help your children because the family is split. You end up having to work with your children to help them overcome that trauma and still help them to feel that there's spirituality in their lives and that everything is going to be okay. For kids, it's really hard. And you think that you're getting the worst of it because you're going through this with a former spouse that you have devoted your life to. But the kids really are, I cannot express how seriously they are impacted. And many times you don't realize it because you're dealing with so much of your own trauma. Every child that goes through a parent's divorce, those children are impacted for the rest of their lives with their relationships with people and with their Heavenly Father. They are impacted with their feeling of self-worth. They are impacted with everything that they try to figure out what is real anymore. So yes, it's a hard time for everyone. And if you bring Heavenly Father into that picture, you will always manage to work out of it. But you've got to be sure that you're leaning on Him with every move you make.
What would you say you learned the most during that time?
I had a saying that I always said after that time, after I got married again. And I married a wonderful man. Whole new story. I've been married to him for over 30 years.
Oh,
What I learned during that time of being a single mom, we are more resilient than we believe we are. We can do so much more than we think we can. Our abilities are so much more than what we believe.
so I just want to back up and understand the timeline. You had this incredible book you were studying, working towards about finding your strength as a woman. Did this happen before or after you became a single mom?
A Woman's Power was written after I remarried. My husband and I were serving on Temple Square, and he was the branch president.
That's remarkable. A lot of us struggle with imposter syndrome, and that kind of makes us feel like we're not enough or feeling like we're not really qualified to do what God is asking us or wanting us to do. Is that something that you feel like you've ever experienced?
Yes, I have.
And so, how would you say your faith has helped you navigate those feelings?
Well, I was just going to say, how many times don't we all feel that way? My goodness, we all feel that way. Somebody can make you look like they don't, but they do feel that way. I don't care what they say. Yeah. We all have that same feeling. If we reach out to Heavenly Father and trust, we make it through that. We know we can do that and we can trust ourselves. So we build on our experiences. If we trust ourselves and Heavenly Father, going back into my writing, I may give that as an example with the children's books. I had to relearn many things because technology had changed so much. Marketing had changed. It used to be that I was on television a lot or radio a lot, and things changed on how you put things together. Technology had advanced and I needed to learn how to use technology again. All of these things, then you say to yourself, I did that before. All I have to do is learn this little extra piece, and then I'll be able to do it because I did do that before. So you have to lean on what Heavenly Father gave you the opportunity to do before. Go forward in faith that Heavenly Father's going to show you what to do and put that together. When I was praying to Heavenly Father about why am I writing these children's books and how am I going to figure out how to make my own website? How am I going to do these things over again? How much did I know before? What did I experience before? Let me take that, put it with my trust that Heavenly Father is going to help my brain work, make it so that I can put these things together. I haven't got it all figured out yet. I'm still working on it. Have you noticed how things are changing by the day?
Yes.
It's like I get one program down and then I'll get a notice that we've upgraded. And so now you've got to do da da da. Yeah. So that's the period that we live in today is so different than when I started out with my writing so many years ago. Completely different.
It is impressive. And I like what you're saying because I think the technology will continue to advance. And it is easy to get overwhelmed and be like, I can't possibly keep up. But what I hear you saying is you've done it before, so you can do it again with Heavenly
Yeah.
Father's help.
Yeah. You had that piece before. Now you're going to grasp onto this new piece and put with it. It's AI. My goodness. A lot of people are afraid of AI with good reason. I understand. But you have to know the parameters to work with AI. Once you understand those parameters, you are still using all of your creativity. Well, I'll tell you one of the ways I used AI.
Please.
First of all, I'll explain how I got ChatGPT on my computer. One of my boys who works around the world with AI, he came one day and said, I'm going to put ChatGPT on your computer and you're going to make use of him. But I have to introduce you to ChatGPT first. And I said, okay, because I did not know anything about this. So he sets it up and he says to ChatGPT, you have to understand she's really old. She's hard of hearing. And then he says, Mom, don't be upset. This is all true. And he just needs to know he's going to have to repeat a few things and it's okay. And then he explained to me how to do the prompts and how I could make use of it. What I ended up doing was with this technology that I'm trying to learn, if I couldn't figure it out, I'd go to ChatGPT and say, I'm trying to learn this program. Could you give me a step-by-step of doing this particular thing? And it would just, in just a second, there it was. And then I'd try to find everything that was on that list, and there'd be a couple of things I couldn't find. I could go back and say, I can't find that. Can you tell me where it is? There it is. Tells you exactly where it is. And it doesn't work with everything, but on many of the programs I've tried to learn in the last couple of years, ChatGPT has given me the instructions. And I haven't had to call on my computer kids to come over and teach me how to do it because I've got ChatGPT to use.
I love
Yeah,
that. And if I remember correctly, you were trying to build your own website.
I was, but I was
That's
also,
incredible.
that was because another one of my boys who had made my website before when I was doing nonfiction, we had taken it down because I was retiring and we didn't need it up anymore. He did a beautiful job. He's a CTO in another computer company. And I contacted him when I decided I was going to go back to writing. I said, I need another website. Can you build that for me? And he said, no, I'm not going to do it this time. I think you're more techie. You can do this yourself. I said, no way. There is no way I can do this. And he says, I think you can. So he was like my parent. He's my son, my youngest son, and my husband and I have 12 children. So he's the youngest out of our 12. And yet he was now my parent. And he was saying, you can do it. And he's been my mentor. He has helped me through the whole thing. He has made it so that I can get that beautiful website up. I did 98% of it by myself,
That's
and the rest.
awesome. That's awesome. So cool. I love that idea for my kids. I can do this, but then that's not going to help them learn anything. Trying to help parent them in a way that magnifies their capabilities. I love that's what your son was helping you do as well, because he probably could have done it, but then you wouldn't have learned, yes, I can build a website.
That is the primary point in that whole exercise, Cassidy, was I then gained self-confidence with the computer, with the technology, with learning, that my brain wasn't too old to learn and that I could do this. I just want to say with your kids, whatever you are doing, they are watching you.
Hmm.
They are saying to themselves, wow, look at mom. She's moving forward with what she feels like she should be doing. What an example you're setting for them because they are watching you. It's not a matter of how successful we are, because success means different things to different people. And success is that we move forward with fulfilling those promptings that we receive and do what Heavenly Father wants us to accomplish. Doesn't necessarily mean we make a lot of money. It doesn't necessarily mean we have a lot of acclaim. What it means is we are doing what we are supposed to be doing on this earth and fulfilling the missions that have been given to us to fulfill.
I love your definition of success, that you are fulfilling the promptings you received.
Yes. And if you're doing that, your children are watching you and they are learning from you in that process and will take that into their lives as well. Some of your children, one more than another, will be more receptive to that spirit that they get from that. Some of them will gain more from it than another, but they'll all gain from it.
Faye, is there anything that you feel like I would really like this audience to know or to hear?
I think for creatives, which I am, you are, I believe Heavenly Father is the greatest creator. Think about us all being creatives. If we're all creatives, we need to make the time, dedicate enough thought process, even if that means just sitting on a swing in the front yard and looking out at God's creations. We need the time to create, whether it's just in our mind, on paper to write music, artwork, a book, or figuring out how we're going to landscape the yard. We've got to use enough time in our minds for creativity, or we do not feel whole. Our wholeness and creativity will be a little different for each person, but that creativity is monumentally important for every individual.
I totally agree with you, and I think it's beautifully said. Faye, where can we find your stuff?
Oh, you can find all of my material that is currently available on my website at www.klingler, Klingler, author.com. And that's where you can find things. Most of my new books are on Amazon, but you can find out about them from my website.
Wonderful. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for spending time with me today. If you're looking for a family-friendly, refreshing drink, check out Soda Bears, my family's premium soda company. And for a faith-filled story to share with the little ones, don't miss Sheep Chronicles Baptism, coming this September. Both are available on Amazon. Until next time, keep creating with purpose and faith.